Could it be that someone is going through a catastrophe? Why do I feel that this five-color divine light is the spiritual power of the five elements attributes, not like thunder from the sky? What's going on? In the end, what happened? Everyone is shocked, but they don't know why, and they don't dare to go deep into it to find out. It's really too terrifying. This world has become a sea of spiritual power, with huge waves and ghosts crying and gods howling, like a tsunami, spreading out endless coercion. The 7th level Emperor Spirit Master may be instantly annihilated as soon as he enters, and there will be no second possibility. When everyone in the distance was shocked and did not dare to approach, under the influence of the medicine, Jason was struggling to hold on. Boom, a shocking five-color divine light fell from the calamity cloud, like a comet piercing the sky. The dazzling light cut open the space, and hit Jason heavily. Pfft. The blood spilled wildly and was instantly evaporated in the five-color divine light. Jason's body split open directly, revealing the twitching muscles and blood vessels, which was terrifying and abnormal. In midair, Jason gritted his teeth, his canthus was completely cracked, and there was not an inch of intact skin on his body. The blood continued to flow, and was then evaporated dry by the vast spiritual power of the five elements. At this moment, Jason felt that his body was about to explode, and it was almost difficult to resist. The medicine tribulation he faced this time was different from the thunder-type mysteries of the Thunder Prison natural disaster that he used to resist Thor in the mainland elite competition. Thor was a 6th-level senior spiritual master, and the Thunder Prison natural disaster he displayed was only a 7th-level one. The existence of the Emperor. The calamity caused by this invisible reincarnation potion in the trial space is enough to kill an 8th-level Emperor spiritual master. Even the patriarch of the Decker family and the 8th-level intermediate Emperor spiritual master Linden, if a jackal comes, he will probably be killed by the endless spiritual power of the five elements, leaving no trace of his body. Buzz, the cyan ball in Jason's mind kept spinning, emitting streams of rich wood vitality, constantly nourishing Jason's body. Under the treatment of this wood-type vitality, Jason's body healed quickly. However, no matter how fast he healed, he could not keep up with the speed of the body's damage. Muscles and tendons were constantly bursting. Blood flowed freely. In some places, white bones were even exposed. It was terrifying and abnormal. In the constant resistance, the fragments of the five elements law in Jason's body are constantly being refined. In addition to the gold and wood elements, with the help of the original power of the holy beast immortal fire phoenix, the spiritual power law of the fire element finally, they were all refined by Jason. Fire, passion, and irritability burn everything and destroy the world. Fire also brings wisdom and develops civilization. The fire elements were completely integrated together. He understood the true meaning of the fire laws and transformed into the fire elements between heaven and earth. Countless fire elements were cheering around him as if they were part of his body. Jason's strength gradually increased, and his body's recovery speed suddenly accelerated. Suddenly, crack. A harsh roar sounded, Jason's eardrums vibrated, and a bright light once again lit up between heaven and earth, and torrents of five elements danced like wild dragons, tearing apart the void. Hurricane masterpiece, dozens of five-color rays of light dazzled from their own eyes, like a startling rainbow, piercing the space and straight into the sky, which hit Jason's head heavily. The infinite spiritual power of the five elements instantly knocked Jason into the stone forest. The entire stone forest turned into powder under this blow, and the surrounding rocks and trees all shattered into original particles and dissipated into the world. A huge circular pit appeared on the ground, with a diameter of more than 10 feet and a depth of several feet. The surface rock was sintered into black glaze under the burning of the five elements' spiritual power. Ah, that figure can't hold on any longer. Someone in the distance saw this scene and roared in horror. Is this guy shot down by the five elements' spiritual power? Is he dead? Everyone unfolded their spiritual senses and went deep into the medicine tribulation, hoping to sense the internal situation. However, with their strength, they could only feel the endless surge of 5 elements and could not distinguish anything. Look, that guy is again flying. He's not dead yet. It's too scary. This guy is at least an 8th level Imperial Spirit Master. In midair, Jason's body was about to be shattered. Even his bones had countless cracks. He turned into a bloody man, but no blood was spilled, because once all his blood spilled out, it would be destroyed by the terrifying 5 elements. The elements were evaporated. Boom. Facing the crisis of death, at this moment, Jason, who was covered in wounds, finally broke out, and powerful spiritual power surged out of him. He gritted his steel teeth and looked up at the sky. Come on, come on, come on, isn't it just a small medical calamity? I still don't believe I can't survive it. Jason looked up to the sky and roared. His eyes were red, and the spiritual power in his body was running rapidly. 5 golden limit spiritual rings rose up and impacted towards the sky. The calamity cloud. Fortunately, the splendid torrent of 5 elements blocked the light of his spiritual ring, and the roar also drowned out his roar. Otherwise, there is no telling what kind of sensation it would have caused among the countless onlookers around him. Another torrent of elements washed down, like a flood that broke a bank, and Jason was completely submerged in it. The terrifying space cracks spread like spider webs for hundreds of miles, and the whole sky is shaking violently, as if it will collapse at any time. The terrifying elemental current is like a steel torrent, drowning the crowd. This blow, Jason's body was completely shattered. His limbs, and even bones were shattered. The sky was about to collapse, and the sky was suddenly pierced into a honeycomb. Immortal rainbows cut through the vast universe. Billions of stars shine brightly, and the space is shattered. Jason feels that his body is about to collapse. This is a blow that can wipe out the 8th level Emperor, Spiritual Master. It is irresistible, and the body is shattered. Turned into nothingness. At this 1,000th of a moment of life and death crisis, the laws of the earth and water elements that were constantly being refined in Jason's body were finally completely refined by Jason at this moment. Water, soft, nurtures all things in the world. It embraces everything. Water is persevering, and water droplets can penetrate rocks, and it can also destroy all things in the world. Soil is thick, stable, and down to earth, and can resist the invasion of all things. Soil nourishes the world, is dense, and provides for everything. People reproduce and live metal, wood, water, fire, earth. The evolution of the 5 elements is endless. The Great Road comes to the world and lasts forever. The laws of the 5 elements are clearly presented in Jason's mind. All kinds of inexplicable mysteries are evolving in Jason's mind. Finally, the 5 elements were unified, forming a cycle of the 5 elements, which was connected in Jason's body. At this moment, Jason's body stopped collapsing, and the 6th order peak spiritual power was like a snowball, growing like a rocket taking off into the sky. Originally, Jason's 7th level meridian entrance was as solid as cast steel. No matter how Jason mobilized his spiritual power or attacked, he could not break the barrier. Now, it collapsed naturally. Come on. In the moment of life and death crisis, Jason finally realized another realm. Boom. Endless coercion spread out from Jason's body, and terrifying spiritual energy fluctuations suddenly rushed out of Jason's body, towering straight into the 5-color calamity clouds in the sky. At the same time, waves of heaven-shattering destruction, the spiritual power of the earth fluctuates like waves, spreading out in all directions with Jason's body as the center. Wherever it goes, the void collapses, revealing cracks in the space. The colorful clouds that are constantly moving in the sky are like induction. What happened? At this moment, it suddenly became more violent. It was like a vase containing 5-color holy water tipping over and scattering a bright 5-color curtain. A trace of the power of the 5 elements formed a huge spiritual vortex around Jason's body. Rushed towards Jason in the center of the vortex crazily, and was then absorbed into Jason's body. The body of Jason, whose muscles and bones had all been shattered before and was almost extinct, once again condensed and reorganized in the void. The bones and muscles all emitted a five-color divine light, like glass, which was so powerful that it was unbelievable. Boom! The torrent of five elements continued to rush down from the calamity cloud, hitting Jason hard. However, these five elements that were a calamity for Jason before, at this moment, became Jason's promotion to the 7th level low-level Emperor Spirit. The Master's Great Tonic continuously reorganizes Jason's body and crazily increases Jason's strength. I don't know how long it took, but the five-color calamity cloud finally dissipated. The heaven and earth medicine calamity, caused by the birth of the 8th level Emperor level 5 element reincarnation potion, finally slowly disappeared. Haha! In the sky, Jason, wrapped in the five-color divine light, glanced around and screamed. Suddenly, it was like thunder, and the sky shook in all directions. The surging spiritual power shook the minds of many 7th level Imperial Spiritual Master members around them. As for those 6th level Imperial Spiritual Master members, their spiritual power was disordered and they rioted, colliding with each other and making it difficult to suppress them. Under the horrified gazes of everyone around him, Jason rose into the sky, turned into a five-color stream of light, and disappeared into the sky in an instant. Only a group of disciples from the Elixir Master Tower with dull expressions were left. The endless spiritual power dissipated, and it was not until a long time later that someone recovered from the shock and rushed to Jason's previous location. However, everything here was reduced to ashes. Within a few hundred meters, the rock formations several feet were shaved off, and the surface condensed into black glaze, leaving nothing behind. What happened just now? Did someone survive the tribulation, or what happened? Why do I feel the breath of the elixir? Everyone was puzzled and didn't understand what happened before. It's an 8th level Emperor level spiritual potion. Someone is preparing an 8th level Emperor level spiritual potion. At this moment, a majestic voice suddenly sounded in the crowd, making everyone look involuntarily. It's him, Balthazar, core disciple Balthazar. An 8th level intermediate Imperial Spiritual Master, a 7th level advanced elixir master, and one of the top 10 on the list of elixirs in the tower. One of the core disciples who is most promising to inherit the inheritance of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower. Seeing the person who spoke, all the Spirit Medicine Master Tower disciples present were shocked in their hearts. They were obviously extremely shocked by the identity of the visitor. In the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower, the core disciples are the real top leaders and can inherit the leadership of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower. Among the core disciples, it is said that there is a list of elixirs that ranks the strength of the core disciples. This ranking is not just simple combat power, but a list that combines many factors such as combat prowess and elixir knowledge, ranking. Although it is said that all the core disciples can inherit the inheritance of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower and become the next Tower Master of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower after the current Tower Master resigns, all the disciples of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower know that if there is any chance, those core disciples who rank in the top 10 on the elixir list are the real elites. And this Balthazar is one of them. Such people are all the top geniuses in this continent, and they have enjoyed countless halos since they were young. He is sought after and admired by tens of millions of people. Even in the Elixir Master Tower where geniuses gather, he is a shining presence, making countless inner disciples and senior disciples look up to him. Among the crowd, Balthazar carefully sensed the spiritual elements remaining in the air. His eyes revealed an inexplicable light of horror, and then there was endless loss. The breath of the 5 elements, which was prepared here before, is any elixir related to the 5 elements? Alas, it's too late. I'm a step too late. Otherwise, I really want to see what kind of person is preparing such a terrifying Emperor-level elixir here. Balthazar sighed, full of disappointment. 8th level Imperial Elixir, which elder from the Elixir Tower was that person before? This isn't possible? Listening to the last laugh of the person before, It seems that he is not very old, indeed. I also feel that this person seems to be very young, very young. Are you kidding me? Did you hear what Brother Balthazar said? Is it the aura of preparing the 8th level Emperor level elixir? How could a senior who can cooperate with the 8th level Emperor level elixir be young? Everyone started talking, with shock still on their faces. Huh? At this moment, Balthazar suddenly made a sound of surprise and frowned deeply. Why? I felt a breath of elemental fusion here. Isn't it the Emperor level elixir, but the catastrophe caused by someone's promotion? Balthazar murmured, and then shook his head violently. No, although there is the aura of elemental fusion, I did feel the fluctuation of some powerful elixir. It is definitely an 8th level imperial elixir. There can be no mistake, but Balthazar's thoughts were completely confused. The aura here was completely disordered by the torrent of 5 elements. Even he, the 8th level intermediate emperor spiritual master and the 7th level advanced elixir emperor master, did not understand what happened. It's a pity that I couldn't see it with my own eyes. See, otherwise, I will definitely be able to know what happened here before. Balthazar sighed helplessly. Before his voice fell, his whole body swayed and turned into a stream of light, disappearing into the sky. After seeing Balthazar leaving, the other disciples did not dare to stay and left one after another. In their perception, in this mountain forest, there are many spiritual beasts attracted by the strange phenomena. They are all 6th-order spiritual beasts. Occasionally there are some 7th-order spiritual beasts, but no one is hunting them. The thought of killing them all left with fear. Although this place is close to the periphery of the trial secret realm, the level of the spirit beasts that appear is not high, but the level of the disciples who are trialing nearby is also not high. The appearance of Balthazar was just an accident, he should just happen to be around, and he had previously. The vision is really terrifying. Once they attract powerful spiritual beasts, they will be in danger. 8th level imperial elixir, that person before was really terrifying. If I can achieve such strength in the future, then I would be satisfied. During the flyby, many people were still feeling emotional, and Faulkner, Turnos and others who entered the secret realm of the trial with Jason were also among them. Jason also saw a few of them before, but he didn't come forward. Apparently, he didn't want to reveal his identity. Deep in a mountain forest in the secret trial realm, a stream of light suddenly fell down, revealing a young face. It was Jason who had just taken the 5 elements reincarnation potion and survived the tribulation and was promoted to the 7th level of low-level emperor spiritual master. This 5 elements Tao fruit is indeed a rare existence even among 8th level treasures. It actually contains so many 5 elements laws. Feeling the surging 7th level emperor level spiritual power in his body, Jason was delighted. I almost couldn't help but want to look up to the sky and scream, but in the end I restrained my impulse. At this moment, in his body, the 7th level low-level spiritual power is constantly flowing. The rich 7th level low-level spiritual power is almost condensed into liquid form. It is definitely not as simple as the 7th level low-level imperial spiritual master. This time, encountering such a terrifying heaven and earth medicine calamity, Jason can be regarded as a blessing in disguise. After absorbing a large amount of the power of the 5 elements, he not only advanced to the 7th level low-level emperor spiritual master, but also reached the peak of the 7th level low-level. The 7th level intermediate imperial spiritual master is only one step away. However, this is not the reason why Jason is happy. What makes him happy is the terrifying law contained in the 5 elements path fruit. In Stern Continent, if a spiritual master wants to advance to the 7th level of the imperial spiritual master, he only needs to understand some of the basic elemental laws and be able to merge with the elements of heaven and earth. However, the laws comprehended by different imperial spiritual masters are somewhat different. After the 7th level, each level of promotion requires the spiritual master to have a certain understanding of the laws, rather than simply accumulating spiritual power. Therefore, after the 7th level, to see whether a spiritual master has potential is to see his understanding of the laws. How is your understanding? And the Imperial Spirit Master, who has extremely high talent for understanding the law, will be regarded as a genius by some big forces and support him. Just like when Jason met Bye in the qualifiers of the Northwest region of the Continental Elite Tournament. Adkins, the first genius of U Kingdom, comprehended the extremely profound law of golden softness among the laws of the metal system when he was a 7th-level low-level Imperial Spiritual Master, which shocked Xuanfeng, Carol and others. Directly placing more emphasis on Adkins than Dinisha and Temujin. In the arena competition, Lafonzi's understanding of the Dark System laws was also extremely unparalleled. He was actually a 7th-level low-level emperor. The power of the Spiritual Master injured Clark, who was a 7th-level senior Imperial Spiritual Master, and attracted the attention of the Spiritual Master, Elder Tatum. It can be said that Adkins and Livens are both geniuses among the 7th-level Imperial Spiritual Masters. As long as they keep up, there is basically no problem in advancing to the 8th-level Imperial Spiritual Master. At this moment, Jason's understanding of the 5 elements law has reached an astonishing level. Even some 8th-level Emperor Spirit Masters with 5 elements attributes may not have as deep a understanding of the 5 elements law as he does. This also shows that on the road from the low level of the 7th level to the peak of the 7th level, Jason will not have bottlenecks like those ordinary Imperial Spiritual Masters, but will have smooth sailing. But at this moment, Jason did not put his mind on the understanding of the law. Instead, he felt a set of spiritual techniques in his mind. The God-destroying killing technique. This was a set of spiritual techniques that suddenly appeared in his mind at the moment when he was promoted to the 7th-level Imperial Spiritual Master. However, there were only a few postures and a very brief formula that was transmitted into his heart. It was difficult. Incomparably profound. This seems to be some kind of secret method and spiritual skill brought by the spiritual God technique. It will only appear when certain conditions are met. Previously, Jason didn't have time to understand it. At this moment, Jason silently understood these strange postures, and then combined them. The formula should be carefully understood and practiced. But in a moment, Jason's mind was completely attracted. This is an extremely terrifying attack method. It has great requirements on the spiritual master's physical strength and can instantly increase the spiritual master's overall strength and power. Extraordinarily large. Not limited to attack, not limited to defense, not limited to body skills, it comprehensively enhances the strength of the spiritual master, allowing the spiritual master to instantly burst out with extremely terrifying power. What secret method is this? Jason was shocked. This method was very weird but extremely terrifying. It wasn't until Jason advanced to the 7th level and his physical strength reached the peak of the 8th level that it was passed into his heart. Such a difficult trigger condition is enough to show the horror of this secret method. However, what is passed into Jason's heart now seems to be just a few basic sentences. The formula and gestures were not complete. Even so, Jason had a first glimpse of its mystery, which was enough to be called earth-shattering. Jason was extremely excited and began to practice the formulas and postures. However, those postures seemed simple, but they were extremely difficult to achieve. After many attempts, Jason failed to grasp the essence of his first posture, which shocked Jason. Who is Jason? A 9th-level elixir master in his previous life, a pioneer in the art of spiritual elixirs, and an inheritor of a line of violent spiritual masters. He has unique physical training among the spiritual masters on the continent today, and his physical strength has reached the peak of the 8th level. And now even he can't fully practice this posture, which is so amazing. The first posture is like this, how difficult will the next posture be? Jason was shocked. However, the arrogance in his heart was also completely aroused. In the following time, he could not practice diligently. He silently meditated on it, and finally on the second day, he completely practiced the essence of the first move. Boom! As soon as this first move was completed, an inexplicable domineering spirit naturally emerged from Jason. A kind of self-respecting spirit rushed out of him, and his fighting spirit made people tremble. It felt like the spiritual power in his body exploded instantly, revealing extremely powerful power, but then quickly disappeared. This is too scary. Jason was shocked. At that moment before, he felt that the spiritual power in his body instantly increased by 30%. Although it only lasted for a moment, it was still shocking. Just one gesture made him change like this. After practicing the God-destroying technique to the end, is it really possible to destroy the gods? The power of God? In the days that followed, Jason continued to comprehend the remaining formulas and postures. Gradually, he was in a wonderful state. 10 days later, he had been immersed in it, evolving each posture fascinatingly. Jason tried the techniques with his body, constantly experiencing the mysterious artistic conception in these postures, and combined with the movement of spiritual power in his body, he wanted to completely master them. However, a scene that surprised him even more happened. These postures and mantras did not mobilize the 5 elements of spiritual power in his body. Instead, the mysterious black, strange power began to operate naturally, dissipating a heart-stopping energy. Coercion. This God-destroying technique mobilized the strange black power in his body, which was beyond Jason's expectation. However, this situation made Jason even more confused. He had always believed that this black strange power was the power contained in the blood in his body. The ability of the spiritual God technique to produce that black strange power had made him he was quite confused, but now even the power needed to operate this God-destroying technique was the black weird power, which made Jason know that things were definitely not as simple as he thought. At this moment, Jason did not think too much, but continued to meditate on several postures and mantras. Every inch of flesh and blood on his body showed a secret, forming endless laws, trying to make the invisible laws tangible. Finally, his heart was shocked, and an inexplicable realization rose from his heart, like an enlightenment, running through the past and future, and operating out the only law of attack. Boom! In an instant, the whole world was rioting, and the endless 5 elements of spiritual power poured into Jason's body like a flood. In an instant, the spiritual power throughput in Jason's body increased several times, and a wave of inexplicable pressure descended from the sky and enveloped this world. God-destroying killing technique, kill. Jason shouted loudly, his eyes were like lightning, bursting with light, his body was like an ancient demon ape. He leaped out, and the black heavy sword behind him turned into a long black dragon and struck out like lightning. Boom! Endless spiritual power spurted out from the black heavy sword, like a black lightning, breaking through the void. The space was torn open with a crack. Wherever the sword light touched, the mountains, rocks, grass and trees were turned into powder, destroying all tangible and intangible existences. With heavy sword in hand and black hair surging, Jason stood proudly in the air, like a great mountain that existed in ancient times, giving people endless shock. 3 times the combat power, 3 times the combat power. Jason's eyes flashed with unconcealable joy. The previous blow was a full-strength blow he struck under the operation of the God-destroying killing technique. Driven by the God-destroying killing technique, the moment before Jason attacked, the spiritual power in his body surged instantly, and he hit the air. The throughput of the 5 elements spiritual power elements was several times that of the normal highest state, and the blow he made actually reached 3 times the combat power of his normal strongest attack. In other words, this God-destroying technique, in an instant, tripled Jason's strength. It can be called a world-shattering, unparalleled miraculous technique. Moreover, Jason also felt that this triple combat power was only the state he could achieve when he just practiced the God-destroying art. As he continues to comprehend, it will become even more terrifying in the future. If he can fully exert it, any opponent all trembled. The powerful combat power displayed by this secret technique shocked Jason to no end. It can definitely be called a supreme secret technique. Next, Jason continued to meditate for several days before giving up. In these short few days, Jason practiced hard and understood the mystery of the formula. However, Jason also discovered that the weakness of the god-destroying technique is that it consumes too much spiritual power. Although Jason has just been promoted to the 7th level low-level Imperial Spiritual Master, his body is at the peak of the 8th level, and his terrifying and powerful meridians. The spiritual power that the meridians in his body can hold is almost several times that of the ordinary 7th level low-level Imperial Spiritual Master. In addition, his understanding of each of the 5 elements' laws is extremely profound. After merging heaven and earth, his throughput of external spiritual elements is almost unimaginable by ordinary Imperial Spiritual Masters. However, after running the god-destroying art, Jason discovered that the terrifying spiritual power in his body could only provide him with a few hits, and the spiritual power in his body would be exhausted, and he was still trying. In the secret refining realm, the concentration of spiritual power in the air is several times that of the outside world. If it were in the outside world, the restrictions would probably be even greater. But yes, if this kind of secret technique that can be used several times can be played continuously without any restrictions, it would be too exaggerated. During these few days, Jason also got to know his body well. The almost reborn changes were pouring into his body continuously. The spiritual power that seemed to be inexhaustible made Jason more familiar with the 6th level spiritual master and the other. There is a clear understanding of the gap between 7th level Imperial Spiritual Masters. Now that I have advanced to the 7th level of low-level Imperial Spirit Master, my goal of entering the secret trial realm has been completed. Now, it is time to gain some points. After more than 10 days of training, Jason finally stopped to come down and think about what you have to do next. Although he still has nearly 1,000,000 points, he also knows that the more points the better in the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower, and it is rare to come to the secret trial realm. The opportunity is rare, so naturally it cannot be wasted. There are more than 10 days left, then I will try the trial in this trial secret realm. Thinking in his heart, Jason's spiritual consciousness immediately dispersed, and he carefully sensed everything around him. Now that he has advanced after reaching the 7th level low-level Emperor Spiritual Master, the range that Jason's spiritual consciousness can perceive has expanded at least 5 times compared to the original. No disturbance within a radius of dozens of miles can escape his perception. Soon, some spiritual beasts appeared in Jason's spiritual consciousness, but they were all 5th and 6th level spiritual beasts, and Jason was too lazy to even take action. Whoosh! Jason soared into the sky, his spiritual consciousness radiating down, and he flew by, searching for everything around him. Huh? Corolla fire python? Just after he flew hundreds of miles, suddenly, a smile appeared on the corner of Jason's mouth in the sky, like an old hunter who had seen his prey, and then he swayed slightly and disappeared into the sky. In a mountain stream dozens of miles away from Jason's previous location, at this moment, a giant python with fiery red markings on its body was curled up in the corner, its eyes narrowed slightly, reflecting a cold light. As a 7th level Imperial Spirit Beast, this Corolla fire python is the overlord within 1,000 miles of the surrounding area. It stays leisurely in its own territory. It has just eaten several 6th level flame lions and is enjoying the sunshine. Take a bath and absorb the essence of fire elements between heaven and earth. Not far away, 2 6th level flame lions were lying there trembling, full of fear. They were the lucky ones among several flame lions to survive. However, they were only lucky for a moment. They waited until the Corolla fire python wanted to eat again. Sometimes, they are food. Suddenly, a dazzling light shone through the sky, and a terrifying power cut through the sky, aiming at the flower-crowned fire python from a distance. Hiss! Feeling this terrifying attack, the Corolla fire python's body, which was more than 10 feet long, suddenly stood up. There was a hint of rage in its chilling eyes, feeling that someone dared to disturb its nap. Furious. Roar! The Corolla fire python revealed its bloody mouth, and a fireball suddenly spurted out from its mouth. The fireball floated out and swelled in the wind. Within a moment, it turned into a giant flame dragon, roaring, aiming at the location of the attack. And go. The terrifying fire spiritual power spread out, and the air burned, turning into a large sea of fire, covering up the light of the scorching sun. It was like the end of the world, showing the Corolla fire python as a 7th-level emperor. The dignity of a super spirit beast that cannot be desecrated. The two attacks collided in a thousandth of an instant. Boom! The sword energy reached the sky, and this terrifying attack shot from a distance split open the sea of fire in an instant, like the first light of dawn, tearing apart the darkness. The fire dragon roared in the sea of fire and collapsed. The sword's radiance was immortal and struck firmly past the body of the Corolla fire python. The Corolla fire python's movement stopped, and its eyes showed an incredibly human light. Immediately afterwards, blood spattered, and the condensed fire elements in the air lost their owner's support, and scattered like a school of fish in the deep sea that was startled. Opened and disappeared into the air. Boom! In the huge collapse sound, the Corolla fire python, which was more than 10 feet high, was split into 2 halves and hit the ground heavily. Until then, a figure with black hair shot from a distance, landed in front of the huge body of the Corolla fire python, and took out a spiritual heart exuding fire fluctuations from the broken body of the Corolla fire python. And a piece of red flesh the size of a fist. I didn't expect that the fire spiritual power contained in the snake gallbladder of the Corolla fire python would be so condensed. With this 7th-level fire spiritual core, it would be worth 70,000 to 80,000 points if sold to the spiritual medicine master tower. The black-haired young man shaking his head, with a smile on his lips, the black heavy sword was held behind his back, and he no longer looked at the flower-crowned fire python, and disappeared on the spot while shaking his body. As a 7th-level imperial, spiritual beast, this Corolla fire python can be said to be full of treasures. Its skin and flesh can be used as 5th-level elixirs, but this black-haired young man doesn't care. Seeing the black-haired young man leaving, not far away, the 2 6th-level flame lions who had been lying on the ground because of the fight between the two stood up tremblingly, and then cautiously came to the body of the Corolla fire python, looking at it warily. After looking around, with a hint of joy in his fiery red eyes, he bit into the body of the Corolla fire python. For Jason, the flesh and blood of the Corolla fire python is completely useless, but for the fire lion, which is also a fire spirit beast, it is a rare tonic. In the days that followed, Jason swept through the mountains and forests. In just 2 days, he killed no fewer than 7 or 8 7th-order emperor-level spiritual beasts. For ordinary 7th-level imperial spiritual masters, the imperial spiritual beasts are extremely powerful and almost difficult to kill, but in Jason's hands, it is easy. Being invincible at the same level is the pinnacle of the 7th-level lower level. Jason showed his unparalleled terrifying combat power. Everyone, look for it quickly. I feel the breath of the heart of rock here. While Jason was searching for the 7th-order imperial spirit beasts in the secret trial realm and plundering their spiritual cores, he was hundreds of miles away from Jason. Outside the range, Owen, Faulkner, Turnos, and Betty were also moving forward cautiously, searching for Turnos elixir materials. Ever since they separated from Jason more than 10 days ago, the 4 of Owen, under the leadership of Turnos, searched for the Heart of Rock, the earth elixir material he needed. The Heart of Rock sounds like some kind of ore, but in fact it is not. It is a fungus that only grows in areas with extremely strong earth spiritual elements, because once it matures, it looks like an inconspicuous piece of stone. Stone is therefore called the Heart of Rock by elixirs. The Heart of Rock is only a 6th-level material, and it is not widely used. It is rarely used in elixirs. In addition, the growth conditions are extremely harsh and it is extremely difficult to form. Therefore, in the trading hall of the elixir tower, Turnos did not find the Heart of Rock. However, this Heart of Rock is the necessary elixir material for the imperial elixir that he needs to try to prepare. He has no choice but to come to Tianqian Mountain, which is extremely rich in earth elements, to try his luck, hoping to get the heart of rock. But unfortunately, in the past 20 days, Owen and the others searched many areas near Tianqian Mountain and found a lot of elixir materials. They even killed 2 lone 7th Order Emperor-level spirit beasts, but they still found nothing. Finding the heart of rock made Turnos extremely anxious. The 3 of them entered the secret realm of trial 3 days earlier than Jason and Faulkner. Now there is less than 7 days left. If the heart of rock cannot be found within these 7 days, Turnos will not be able to find it. You know what to do. Everyone was walking cautiously among the mountains and forests. Suddenly, a wide open space appeared in front of them, revealing a rocky clearing. In the rocky clearing, some stones were scattered randomly. Ah! Seeing those stones, Turnos was stunned for a moment, with an extremely excited look on his face. Owen and others looked at him in confusion. It's the heart of rock, Turnos said excitedly. If ordinary people saw those stones, they would just regard them as ordinary stones. However, Turnos, a 6th-level senior spiritual master, saw them at a glance. It turned out that these stones were the heart of the rock he was looking for. Everyone walked forward with joy on their faces. Among them, Turnos was walking at the front of the crowd, excited to pick those rock hearts. Turnos, stop! Suddenly, Owen, who was following Turnos, suddenly froze as if he had seen a ghost, his mouth trembled, and his face instantly turned pale. Everyone looked around in confusion. Behind a huge rock, not far ahead, a spiritual beast exuding a terrifying aura slowly walked out. Seeing the appearance of this spiritual beast, everyone's hearts trembled. This spiritual beast is 10 meters long and nearly 3 meters tall. The whole body has dark scales with metallic luster. The scales on its body are arranged very closely and regularly, and each scale is as big as a palm. However, there is a strange feeling when the dense scales gather together, making people feel like their scalp is numb. In particular, there are sharp spikes 30 centimeters long on its back, and the spikes extend from the tail end of its back to its forehead. The most terrifying thing is the pair of eyes. The pupils of the eyes are dark golden, and the cold gaze makes people feel chilled all over. The Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus, the most terrifying 7th-level imperial spiritual beast. Everyone exclaimed in their hearts, and the information about the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus that they had read in the books naturally appeared in their minds. Wattlehorn Tyrannosaurus, a 7th-order Emperor-level spiritual beast, a metallic spirit beast with the subdragon attribute. Among the 7th-order Imperial-level spirit beasts, Wattlehorn Tyrannosaurus has the strongest defense and the most flexibility. At the same time, Wattlehorn Tyrannosaurus has the strongest. The attack power of the claws is also extremely terrifying. It can be said that it is quite perfect. Among the 7th-level Imperial spiritual beasts of the same level, the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus is undoubtedly the most powerful one. It turned out to be the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. Everyone was trembling slightly. At first, when they saw the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus appearing, they were still wondering why their spiritual consciousness could not feel it. But now, they are all understood. They are both 7th-order Imperial spirit beasts, but they are also divided into 3, 6, and 9 levels. The Corolla Fire Python is a relatively weak existence among the 7th-order spirit beasts, while the rock-armored dragon Scorpion is stronger than the Corolla Fire Python. As for the iron-backed sword mantis and the purple flame dragon lion beast, they are stronger. As for the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus, they are the kings among the 7th-order Emperor-level spiritual beasts, far surpassing ordinary rock-armored dragons and scorpions. Emperor-level spiritual beast. With the strength of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus, it wanted to hide itself, and it was impossible for the 4 of them, including Owen, to discover its existence. What to do? Everyone was panicking. Although there was only one Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus, the shock to Owen and the others was far more terrifying than when the 6 rock-armored dragon scorpions appeared. Everyone, step back slowly. Don't anger the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. Let's go. Owen whispered, carefully stepping back. It took a lot of effort to find the heart of rock. I didn't expect to encounter the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. Do you really want to give up like this? Turnos was very unwilling, but he had no choice but to do so. Looking at everyone's cautious retreat, the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus glanced at Turnos and the others in a joking manner. Phew! Its figure turned into a phantom and instantly arrived in front of Turnos, who was at the front of the team. Turnos was shocked in his heart, and the spiritual power on his body continued to rise. A series of cyan wood-type spiritual powers condensed in front of him in an instant, guarding him. No, everyone, retreat! Owen also yelled, but he did not retreat but instead advanced. The flames on the giant sword in his hand skyrocketed, and he aimed it at Turnos and struck it hard in front of him, trying to escape from the bramble horn. Turnos was rescued from the claws of the Tyrannosaurus. But how could he catch up with the speed of the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus? Boom! A dull roar sounded. Under the bombardment of the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus, the wood spiritual power in Turnos's chest instantly collapsed, and the huge and sharp dragon claws hit Turnos's chest heavily. Swept it away. Pfft! Blood spattered, and Turnos was thrown heavily. The blood in his mouth surged wildly. He stopped after sweeping down several big trees, and fell to the ground motionless. His life and death were unknown. Then, the sharp claws of the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus flew, and in an instant they collided with the giant sword in Owen's hand. Endless spiritual power exploded, forming a huge spiritual power storm that instantly turned the surrounding trees within tens of meters into powder. Owen's body shook violently, and he stumbled back 10 steps. Wherever he stepped, the rocks were shattered, and a trace of blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. Roar! The thornhorn Tyrannosaurus roared, its dark golden eyes extremely cold, and without any pause after the strike, it rushed towards Owen like lightning. Water bondage. At this moment, a cool voice sounded in the forest. Not far away, Betty shouted loudly, waving the spiritual staff in her hand, the spiritual ring above her head trembling, and blue lights radiated from the surface of her body. Out! An invisible water spiritual element formed in the air, like python dragons, and flexibly wrapped around the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus charging towards Owen, wrapping it inside. The thornhorn Tyrannosaurus roared, and the spikes on its body actually trembled. Golden rays of light escaped, and countless water elements wrapped around its body instantly collapsed and dissipated into the air. Waving its giant claws, the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus attacked Owen again. The secret of the earth element, heaven and earth shatter. A roar rang out, the earth element's spiritual power stirred in the air, and a giant sword fell from the sky like a meteorite, striking hard at the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. Boom! Endless earth spiritual power exploded, and the entire world seemed to collapse in an instant, covering the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. Roar! The thornhorn Tyrannosaurus roared, and with a swing of its giant claws, it passed directly through the space and struck the giant sword. Boom! An explosion sounded, and layers of spiritual vibrations passed through the giant sword. Countless earth spiritual powers dispersed. The giant sword in Faulkner's hand was thrown far away, and the rock armor on his body also shattered, blood mist burst out from his body, and he groaned. Well, someone is fighting? In the distance, when Owen and the others were fighting the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus, Jason, who was searching for traces of the 7th Order Imperial Spirit Beast in the forest, suddenly frowned and looked back in the direction of Owen and others. In his perception, in the distant mountains and forests, there were waves of huge spiritual power fluctuations and the roars of spiritual beasts. Obviously, someone was fighting with the spiritual beasts. With a slight thought in his mind, Jason didn't hesitate at all, and his body instantly turned into an afterimage and flew towards Owen and others. Faulkner, seeing Faulkner's appearance, Owen spoke angrily, and his eyes instantly turned red. With the attacks of Betty and Faulkner, he finally calmed down, and a thick flame came from his body surface suddenly rose. The flame soaring to the sky condensed on Owen's body, and finally poured into the giant sword in his hand. The secret of the fire element roar of the fire dragon. In the roar, endless fire light spurted out from his hands, forming a roaring flame dragon, engulfing the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus completely inside. Roar. A shocking roar sounded. In the roar, the flames around the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus suddenly vibrated, and streaks of raging golden spiritual power shot out from it, creating whirlpools and turning the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus. The blazing flames stirred it into countless pieces. In the flames, the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus rushed out, and the roar of the fire dragon, which could kill the rock-armored dragon Scorpion, faced the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus, but could only leave burn marks on its hard armor. However, the large area of burn marks made the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus completely furious. Originally, in his eyes, Owen and others were just prey waiting for it to kill. However, this prey injured it and made it angry. It felt the pain, how could it not be angry? Roar. A roar filled with murderous intent resounded across the sky. Countless golden lights burst out from the spikes on the body of the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus. Terrifying power burst out, and the dragon's claws, with the mysterious laws of gold, tore apart fiercely. He split the air and hit Owen hard. Lines of golden spiritual power formed a long river of laws, wrapped in terrifying spiritual power and shot towards Owen's location. Boom! The endless spiritual power spread out, and in an instant, the world dimmed, and the terrifying and astonishing golden spiritual power enveloped Owen. Owen was horrified and wanted to fight back, but the giant sword in his hand seemed to be it weighs as much as 1,000,000,000 kilograms and is difficult to lift at all, and the 7th level advanced fire spiritual power in the body is also completely suppressed. This thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus has already touched a trace of the 8th level realm and comprehended some elements. The law of the barrier blocked all the spiritual elements around Owen's body. His dark golden eyes were filled with cold light, and cold murderous intent spread across his face. He vowed to kill Owen with one palm. Retreat bravely from the torrent of water element secrets. At this moment of crisis, a clear chant suddenly sounded in the mountain forest, and the infinite fire spiritual power condensed into a big river in an instant, and the water flow containing the terrifying water spiritual power was like a dam bursting. The flood rushed towards the location of the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus. Roar. The thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus roared, and its giant claws, containing the laws of the metal system, didn't pause at all, and directly hit the torrent composed of rich water spiritual power. Boom! Two huge energies collided together, like a pen poking through a white paper, and the torrent of water elements collapsed instantly. Not far away, Betty let out a muffled groan, and took 2 heavy steps back, with tears overflowing from the corner of her mouth. A trace of blood. The giant golden claw tore through the torrent of elements without any pause, and hit Owen's chest hard. Pfft! A mouthful of blood spurted out from Owen's mouth. His whole figure was like a cannonball, and it was thrown heavily. Wherever it went, the rock formations shattered, the giant trees collapsed, and they hit the rocks deeply. On the ground, a long ravine was plowed into the mountain forest. Ahem! 2 mouthfuls of blood spurted out from his mouth. Owen stood up with difficulty and tried to stand up. However, he had no choice but to fall down again. The previous fierce blow from the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus Rex shattered his sternum. Many roots were broken, and all the internal organs in the body were almost knocked upside down, and the ability to fight was completely lost. If Betty's attack hadn't blocked the attack of the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus earlier, I'm afraid that previous attack would have caused Irving. He died under the claws of the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus. Jiwon looked around and couldn't help but smile sadly. In the mountain forest, Turnos fell there, motionless, not knowing whether he was alive or dead. Faulkner, like him, was seriously injured and completely lost his fighting ability. Only Betty was okay, but there was blood at the corner of her mouth, which was not very good. In just a few rounds, the original 4-person team was now all injured, but the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus was almost unharmed, which filled Owen's heart with despair. After repelling Owen, the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus did not pursue him. Owen, with a pair of dark golden violent eyes, directly aimed at Betty, who was holding a sword with one hand and fluttering blue hair not far away. A low roar full of murderous intent resounded throughout the forest. Betty's sneak attack earlier made Jing Jing, the horned Tyrannosaurus, was filled with anger and shifted its target from Owen to Betty. Although the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus is a spiritual beast, it also has a certain amount of wisdom. It knows that among the 4 people present, only Betty still has a certain amount of fighting power and may escape. Betty, let's go. Look at the target of the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus. Owen and Faulkner were stunned for a moment, and then they hurriedly shouted. In the forest, Betty also spotted the golden figure that was rushing towards her. Her gorgeous cheeks were slightly pale. However, she did not panic and run away. She knew that with Brother Owen's speed and strength, he was not a match for him. If she turned around and ran away, she would probably be killed on the spot. And if she gave it all and tried her best, there might be an extremely slim chance of survival. In the midst of this flash of lightning, this somewhat clever woman did not lose herself in panic. Instead, he was trying hard to find that tiny chance of life in a desperate situation. As an old disciple who has been in the Elixir Master Tower for a while, Betty is not very strong, but she is not the kind of lady who has no experience in life and death combat. Holding the white jade hand, the blue water spiritual power surged out of the right staff. However, before he could gather the spiritual power, the golden light suddenly flashed in front of him, and a ferocious beast's face appeared. Killing intent appeared between the reflections of those beautiful pupils. Roar. A roar filled with murderous intent resounded throughout the sky. The claws were even more terrifying and sharp than those that had previously repelled Owen. They tore open the air fiercely, facing a pale face, and his delicate body swayed like flowers in the wind. The ordinary Betty was smashed down. Not far away, Owen and Faulkner saw this, and their eyes were filled with a trace of powerless anger and intolerance. It's a pity that they had nothing to do, because they were seriously injured. Watching a beautiful cold snow lotus fall away in the most tragic way. Faced with this almost fatal blow, Betty also gave up the useless hope, her beautiful eyes slowly closed, and a heartbreaking sadness appeared on her cold and charming cheeks. Poison, the sharp claws did not stop at all because of this sad and touching scene, and still fell hard on Betty. However, just when the strong wind was about to touch Betty's head, suddenly, a black shadow flashed past with a muffled sound of thunder, and after the black shadow flashed past, the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus with its boundless and sharp claws unexpectedly flew away. Betty, who should have been slapped to death by one claw, had already been killed. The moment the claws fell, they disappeared. What happened? Where's Betty? Not far away, Irving and Faulkner, who could hardly bear to watch the previous scene, were stunned by this sudden change. Then their eyes hurriedly shifted, but they saw Betty's place, just a few meters away. In an open space 100 meters away, a black shadow appeared in a flash, and Betty was lying softly in his arms, as if she was frightened, her face full of horror and motionless. In the open space, the black shadow looked down at the beautiful face in his arms that was originally cold and charming, but now it looks alluring because of its paleness. His palms touched the soft and slender waist of the other party, and he relaxed it gently to straighten it. He turned around and whispered, "Betty, are you okay?" Hearing the voice, Betty's tightly closed long eyelashes trembled slightly for a few times, and then opened them with a trembling look. When her eyes saw the resolute and delicate face that appeared in front of her, I was stunned. Finally, a murmuring and unbelievable voice came out from the small ruddy mouth. You Jason?" Betty, who survived the disaster. At this time, her mind was still a little confused and she couldn't react in time. "Jason? It's you? Why are you here?" In the distance, Owen and Faulkner were both stunned. However, immediately, a trace of anxiety appeared on their faces. "Jason, run away. This is the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus, the king of the 7th Order Emperor-level spiritual beasts. You are no match." Although they don't know why Jason was able to rescue Betty from the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus before, but thinking about the power of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus and Jason's level, Owen and Faulkner's hearts instantly became cold. Although Jason, who had killed 2 rock-armored dragon scorpions on the first day of entering the secret realm of the trial, had already shown his terrifying strength to Owen and the others, the rock-armored dragon scorpions were only rock-armored dragon scorpions after all, and were different from Jing. The horned Tyrannosaurus is not at this level at all. There is no comparison in strength between the two. In the hearts of Owen and Faulkner, although Jason is strong, he is only a 6th-level senior spiritual master after all. How could it be the opponent of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus? Jason, thank you for saving me earlier, but please leave now. I'm already injured and I'm not as strong as you. It's impossible to escape. If you leave quickly, there may be a glimmer of hope. From shock, Betty, who had recovered from her injuries, also spoke anxiously at this moment, trying to dissuade Jason from leaving quickly. After hearing Betty's words, Jason looked at the other party deeply. At the beginning, Jason would only fawn over this follower. He didn't have the slightest fondness for Betty, who relied on the strong, but at this moment, the unwillingness to abandon her teammates that she showed made him feel that the other party was not so worthless. Don't worry, everyone. With me here, you are all safe. Faced with the dissuasion of Owen and others, Jason stared coldly at the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus in front of him and said indifferently, Jason, you. After hearing Jason's words, Owen and Faulkner both spoke anxiously, but before he could finish his words, boom. A terrifying aura suddenly rose from Jason's body to the sky, and the terrifying coercion spread out. At this moment, countless 5 elements in the world rushed towards Jason's body in the forest. Thick 5-element spiritual power formed a huge vortex at this moment, puffing in Jason's breath. Seeing this scene, Owen, Faulkner, and Betty and the other 2 were all stunned for a moment. When did this Jason advance to the 7th-level Imperial Spiritual Master? Wasn't he a 6th-level Senior Spiritual Master half a month ago? Unbelievable light flashed from the eyes of Owen and others, and at the same time, their breathing became heavier. At first, Jason, who was a 6th-level Senior Spiritual Master, was able to kill the 7th-level Emperor's rock-armored dragon scorpion. Now that he has been promoted to the 7th-level Emperor's Spiritual Master, facing this Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus, he might still be able to kill it. There is really a slight possibility of defeating it. Thinking of this, Owen and others became extremely excited. At the same time, in the mountain forest, Jason and the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus were fighting together. Buzz. Jason immediately activated the golden ball in his mind, and the golden elemental barrier instantly spread out, wrapping the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus in it. Fatal blow, Feng Yan, triple wave. The spiritual power inside the body roared, and a ball of scorching flame suddenly burst out from the black épée in Jason's hand, aiming at the head of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. Department, slashed away with a fierce sword. At this moment, Jason's heart was calm, but on the other side of the mountain forest, Owen, Faulkner, and Betty all held their breath. Terrifying spiritual power tore through the sky, and scorching fire spiritual power continuously spurted out from the black épée in Jason's hand, roaring, turning into streams of flames, and striking at the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. In an instant, the fire spiritual power in the entire world was violent. The shadow of a giant flame bird loomed in the air. Its cold eyes looked at the location of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. Astonishing power suddenly surged out. Arrive in front of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. Facing the astonishing power that Jason exuded, the Bristlehorn Tyrannosaurus did not pay attention to Jason's appearance at first, but was slightly annoyed that Jason had rescued Betty from his claws. At this moment, his eyes revealed he lost the dignity that he didn't have at all in the previous battle with Owen and others. Roar. A roar resounded throughout the world. The dark golden eyes of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus were filled with coldness. Countless golden laws emerged in the air, forming complex and mysterious runes. At this moment, the huge right claw of the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus completely turned into gold, shining with dazzling light. Golden rolls and runes circulated around the golden claw, and the black ape struck by Jason struck like thunder. Together, two astonishing and terrifying forces collided like meteorites in the sky. First, they condensed slightly due to the unparalleled squeeze, and then boom. The condensed energy expanded outwards and exploded, like thunder shining, and the mountains collapsed. A shocking explosion resounded throughout the world, and indescribable energy spewed out like a volcano. In the eyes of Owen and others, at this moment, the sky and the earth changed color, the sun and the moon lost their brightness, and everything around them lost their shape and color, leaving only a vast expanse of white that filled everything. In the mountain forest, the Jingjiao Tyrannosaurus and Jason separated from each other. At the same time, two shocking explosions sounded on the Jingjiao Tyrannosaurus. It was the last two powers of Feng Yan's triple wave taking effect. Roar! The thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus roared in pain. Flesh flew out from its thick right claw, and blood flowed freely. The scales cracked and spattered a large area. Some of the strong muscles even turned into minced meat, which was shocking. On the other side, Jason also stumbled back more than 10 steps under the huge bombardment. His right hand was slightly numb, and there was a faint hint of pain from the previous cutting of the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus's golden spiritual power. Footprints several feet deep were clearly visible on the rocky ground that looked like fine steel. In the battles of the past few days, Jason's Phoenix Flame triple wave was invincible. Once it was unleashed, almost no Emperor-level spiritual beast could block it. In Jason's imagination, although this thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus was powerful, it was even if he doesn't die, he will be seriously injured. However, the real situation is that his triple wave of Feng Yan not only failed to kill the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus, but even failed to cut open the right claw of the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus. It just caused its right paw to be seriously injured and lost its fighting ability. This result filled Jason with shock and surprise. With his current strength, Feng Yan's triple wave, driven by the fatal blow, reached the 7th level low-level peak with the first attack, and the 7th level with the second attack the peak intermediate level, and the 3rd level can reach the attack power of the 7th level advanced peak, but it only caused so little damage to the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus, which made Jason almost unable to believe it. But that surprise only passed for a fleeting moment, and then, the expression on Jason's face was only excitement. Yes, it's excitement, it's a joyful feeling of meeting an opponent. Ha ha, ha ha ha. Jason couldn't help but laugh up at the sky. Since he was promoted to the 7th level Imperial Spirit Master, Jason has been rampaging all the way through the mountains within the Tianqian mountain range in the past few days, killing nearly 10 people. However, those Emperor-level spirit beasts were either killed by Jason with one move or after a simple battle. Jason only used 50% of his combat power at most, and had no effect at all. Let him play to his heart's content, which filled Jason's heart with dissatisfaction and helplessness. In reality, if a person masters an amazing skill, what does he want to do most? Naturally, he wanted to put it to good use and show off his skills. However, the Jason before was like the person who had mastered amazing skills, but he had no use for him at all. The astonishing strength possessed by this thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus now made Jason's blood boil with excitement. This is a spirit that wants to fight, a spirit that constantly climbs to the top, and this is also the spirit that a strong man must have. What could be more satisfying than finding an evenly matched opponent and having a battle? Roar! Compared to Jason's excitement, the dark golden eyes of the Jingjiao Tyrannosaurus were solemn. It put away its contempt, roared in its mouth, and then whoops. Jingjiao, the Tyrannosaurus, transformed into a golden meteor, aiming at Jason's location and swooping away. Endless metal laws descended, and the metal spiritual elements continued to condense, and there was a faint feeling of substance. This thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus had already touched the threshold of an 8th level Emperor spiritual master. Haha! Jason laughed loudly. Under the confused and incomprehensible eyes of Owen and others, Jason flew up and collided with the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. Rumble. A shocking battle broke out in this mountain forest. The terrifying spiritual power storm continued to sweep across. Wherever it went, trees, rocks, and all kinds of tangible and intangible shocking battles broke out in this mountain forest. The terrifying spiritual power storm it swept continuously, and everywhere it went, trees, rocks, and all kinds of tangible and intangible things were smashed into powder by the terrifying spiritual power. The sky seemed to be penetrated, breaking like glass, making bursts of sonic boom sounds, one gold and one black, two shadows kept colliding in the sky. At this moment, it was like a flash flood, the end of the world, no one does not discolor. This in the forest, Owen, Faulkner, and Betty were all stunned. Everyone's eyes widened with horror. They swallowed hard, and their whole bodies were filled with excitement. Shaking. At this moment, Jason was like an invincible god of war, displaying his amazing strength in the sky, and the terrifying spiritual power that was constantly escaping. Owen and others had no doubt that the other party had the strength to kill them easily. Boom. After a violent collision, Jason and the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus separated like lightning, and then stood silently in the sky. Roar. The thornhorn Tyrannosaurus roared, his voice full of anger and pain, and his eyes had long lost the playful look he had when he looked at Owen and others at the beginning. Instead, they were filled with incomparable fear and rage. On its body, countless scales were broken, revealing pieces of bright red and strong muscles, which were constantly squirming and exuding amazing spiritual power fluctuations. Blood was constantly flowing from its body, even the spikes on its back. It also broke a lot. The most terrifying thing was its two huge front paws, which were almost completely rotten and spasming constantly. Opposite him, Jason's robe was also in tatters, and many places were stained with pools of blood. It was unclear whether it was from him or from the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. There was a trace of blood slipping down from the corner of Jason's mouth, but Jason's eyes always showed unconcealable excitement. Roar. The thornhorn Tyrannosaurus roared, its dark golden pupils staring at Jason across from him. Golden secret texts flowed from the surface of its body, and a heart-stopping and terrifying pressure flowed from it. The body spread out. Owen and others, who were originally extremely excited in the forest, were stunned for a moment. In their perception, the aura of the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus continued to rise. Its body was originally 10 meters long and was now 3 meters high, actually faintly shrunk a bit. This is the innate secret method of the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. Irving and others' faces changed color. Spiritual beasts are a unique species, and some powerful spiritual beasts possess so-called innate secret methods. The secret talent of the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus is the legendary violent bloodline, which is the most important reason why it is called a Tyrannosaurus. Once it breaks out, the strength of the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus will be greatly improved in a short period of time. Some thornhorn tyrannosaurs with strong bloodline talents can even double their strength in an instant, which is really amazing. The innate secret method is not possessed by every spiritual beast, and the violent bloodline of the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus is generally only possessed by the king of the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. Now, after seeing the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus display it, Owen and others, the originally excited heart suddenly hit rock bottom again. That is a violent bloodline that can double the strength. Although Jason and the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus were fighting inextricably before, but now, the strength of the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus has almost doubled compared to before. Jason is afraid it's also more dangerous than bad. Jason, be careful. Jason, this is the innate secret method of the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. It can double its combat power in an instant. Jason, run away quickly. Owen and others all yelled, fearing that Jason would not understand clearly, and warned him. In the sky, Jason's expression remained unchanged. Feeling the increasing terrifying pressure of the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus, a faint smile couldn't help but form at the corner of his mouth. Is it a secret method of innate talent? Jason said calmly, and the spiritual power in his body immediately started to operate according to the formula of the god-destroying killing technique roar. The thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus roared, and the stimulation of its violent bloodline instantly doubled its combat power. The eyes that had looked at Jason with a trace of fear now showed a trace of ridicule and indifference. With a loud roar, the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus transformed into a ball of golden light and shot towards Jason. Die, human! A silent cry rang in his heart. The body of the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus was like an out-of-control heavy-duty truck, slamming into Jason. Just when it was about to hit Jason, Jason's eyes suddenly burst into light, and an inexplicable domineering force naturally emerged from his body, a kind of self-respecting feeling that he was the only one in the world. The spirit rushed out suddenly, and the fighting spirit made people tremble. Die! Jason roared, and the black heavy sword in his hand collapsed like an Optimus pillar, slashing down with a bang. When the sword fell, everything around it seemed to disappear, and only the black heavy sword containing terrifying spiritual power was left in the sky. Tear apart! The whole sky collapsed, and cracks in space appeared, like small black mouths that opened one after another, making people feel heart-stopping. In the astonished eyes of Owen and others, the black heavy sword in Jason's hand struck the neck of the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus with lightning speed. Boom! Endless spiritual power exploded, and an unbelievable scene happened for them. The thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus, which circulated its violent blood and displayed its innate secret method, had its combat power doubled, was struck by Jason's attack. The bottom, starting from the neck, was actually split in half. Blood sprayed wildly in the sky, like a bloody rain, and countless smelly internal organs fell all over the mountain and forest. The huge body of the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus suddenly fell to the ground, causing smoke and dust to fill the sky. On the rocky ground, the body of the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus, which was completely divided into two halves, was still twitching slightly, and its eyes showed unwillingness, horror, and confusion. Obviously, it did not understand why it had used its innate secret method to increase its combat effectiveness. After times, this Jason can still defeat himself. After struggling silently for a moment, the dark golden eyes of the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus finally dimmed and lost their sparkle. Whoosh! After doing all this, Jason fell from the sky, gathered his spiritual power, and came to Irving and others. Is everyone okay? Jason said indifferently, looking at everyone. I were fine. Owen and the other three stammered, obviously not recovering from the terrifying combat power Jason had shown previously. That was the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus that had faintly touched the 8th level Emperor realm, and it also displayed its innate secret method. Even some low-level 8th level Emperor spiritual masters might not be able to kill it. However, previously, but it was split in half by Jason's sword. Such a shocking scene was difficult to accept even though Owen and others were 7th level Imperial spiritual masters with extensive experience. Here are 3 bottles of 6th level healing potions. Please prepare them carefully. With a slight shake of his left hand, Jason took out 3 bottles of 6th level healing potions from the space ring and handed them to the hands of Owen and the others. This Owen and others were stunned. During the battle between Jason and the thorn-horned Tyrannosaurus, they also took healing potions for conditioning, but what they took were only 5th level healing potions. The price of a 6th level healing potion in the Alchemist Tower is about 30,000 points. For Owen's 3 disciples who are spiritual masters, this is an extremely huge amount of money, and they cannot afford it at all. This is also the reason why Owen and the others want to have a good relationship with Turnos. A 6th level high-level elixir master is too important to them. Seeing Owen and the others standing dumbfounded, Jason handed the elixir directly to their hands without saying a word. For Owen and the others, it was an extremely rare 6th level healing potion. For Jason, as long as he had the materials, you can have as much as you want, it's nothing at all. Irving and Faulkner excitedly took the 6th level healing potion. They looked at each other and took it in one gulp. The injuries suffered by the two of them were too serious. The 5th level healing potion they had taken earlier did not actually have much effect. Now it would be great to have a 6th level healing potion, which can at least restore their certain combat effectiveness in a short period of time. Betty carefully put up the 6th level healing potion. Her injuries were the lightest among everyone. The 5th level healing potion was enough, although the 6th level healing potion could quickly reduce her strength to recover, but she couldn't bear it. After handing Owen and the others the healing potion, Jason's eyes fell on Turno's body not far away. His figure swayed slightly, then he came to the other party and helped him up. "Jason, how is Turnos?" Owen and others said with sorrow on their faces. Judging from Turnos's condition, in their hearts, they all knew that Turnos was probably a murderer. "There is less luck." Jason's spiritual consciousness quietly penetrated Turno's body. In his perception, Turnos's ribs were almost completely shattered by the blow of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus, and his chest was a mess of blood and flesh, but Jason also it was felt that Turno's heart was still beating and he was not dead. "He's not dead yet. You take good care of him. I need to treat Turnos. Don't disturb me." Jason frowned and then turned to Betty and said, "Betty, if you are the least injured, just take care of him. Let's protect the law." "Yes." Betty nodded. Jason immediately took out a bottle of 6th level healing potion from his body and poured it into Turnos's mouth. At the same time, he sat cross-legged and put his hands on Turno's back. The golden ball in his mind quickly as it rotated, the traces of golden spiritual power left by the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus in Turnos's body were slowly absorbed under Jason's control, and then expelled from the body after Jason gave Turnos while Ernos was being treated. Owen and the others sat down cross-legged, activating the remaining spiritual energy in their bodies, absorbing the powerful effects delivered by the 6th level healing potion, and slowly healing the wounds they had suffered previously. While everyone was practicing quietly, several figures suddenly shot out from the forest and came to the open space. This is a group of 4 people. It can be seen from their clothes that these people are obviously members of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower who came to this trial secret realm to practice. At the beginning, these 4 people still hid their figures, but after discovering the situation in the venue, they all came out of the forest. Originally, Betty was paying attention to the surroundings with a calm face, and her expression was relatively calm. But as soon as she saw these 4 people, her face was immediately full of extreme vigilance, and she took out the water staff in her hand. The 4 young men looked at Owen and others who were sitting cross-legged and practicing, with a hint of excitement in the corners of their mouths. Then they stopped paying attention to Betty and others, and started walking around. "Hee, it seems that there was a fierce battle here before?" The 4 people first looked at the surrounding situation carefully. When they saw the body of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus not far away, they couldn't help but eat. Startled. Is this a Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus? It was actually killed by these guys? No wonder the spiritual power fluctuations escaping here were so terrifying before. It turned out to be a Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. One of the horse-faced men was looking carefully. After taking a look at the body of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus, he made a sound of surprise. As a genius disciple of the Spirit Medicine Master Pagoda, he naturally knew the strength of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. It was the top spirit beast among the 7th Order Imperial Spirit Beasts. One cannot be killed by an ordinary 7th level Senior Imperial Spiritual Master. The spiritual core of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus hasn't been taken away yet. "Brother, we've made a lot of money now," a young man with triangular eyes suddenly said in surprise, holding the long sword in his hand on the corpse of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. After a few slight provocations, a golden spiritual core, the size of a fist, was pulled out. Waves of strong golden spiritual power fluctuations continued to pass out from the golden spiritual core, showing its power to others. The spiritual core of such a Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus would cost at least 80,000 points if sold. Another young man also said happily. "What do you want to do?" We killed this thornhorn Tyrannosaurus, and the gold spiritual core is also ours. Seeing this situation, Betty suddenly became anxious. She took a step forward and spoke anxiously. Yours? The leading horse-faced man glanced at Betty and laughed out loud. Little sister, this isn't your first time entering the secret trial realm, is it? You actually said that this gold spiritual core is yours. Haha, are you kidding? Don't you even know a little bit of the rules? Haha, brother, I know this girl, her name is Betty, she is an inner disciple in the tower and a 7th-level intermediate imperial spiritual master. I heard that there are few suitors. The young man with triangular eyes said. There are a lot of suitors? Let's see. A fat man made an angry sound, looked at Betty back and forth, and said in a lewd voice, she does seem to be quite handsome, little girl, how about you accompany me and my brother? One night, brother, I will return the spiritual core of this thornhorn Tyrannosaurus to you. Haha. Hey, that's it, stay with the brothers for one night, and they will give you the spiritual core. Several other people said it was a lewd laugh. You, Betty shouted in a low voice, her face full of anger. Betty! A steady voice suddenly came from behind Betty. Irving and Faulkner, who had been practicing with their eyes closed before, now opened their eyes and stood up, and Irving took a step forward and said, make a low sound. After seeing the expressions of Owen and Faulkner, Betty wanted to say something, but in the end she didn't say anything, but took a step back and returned to Owen and others. Hey, isn't this Irving? Why, it doesn't seem to be in good condition? Seeing Irving standing up, the leading horse-faced man immediately sneered. Owen's face was wary, but he remained silent in the face of the other party's arrogance. In the pagoda of the spiritual medicine master, there is competition everywhere, including among the disciples. Because resources are rare, once any treasures appear, there will likely be competition among fellow disciples. As long as they do not kill fellow disciples and compete with each other, any means is allowed, which is also one of the rules among the disciples of the Spirit Medicine Master Tower. These rules are straightforward enough, but if you chew them carefully, you can even hear some more obscure things in them. That is, between disciples, as long as there is a treasure, if the same disciple covets it, they can still plunder it. As long as they do not kill the other party, any method is allowed. The strong are respected. This is the law of survival in the Alchemist Tower. To be precise, it is even the universal law in Stern Continent. The top management of the Alchemist Tower also encourages this, because only in this way can all disciples understand the cruelty of reality. Know how to work hard to improve yourself under pressure. At this moment, when he was seriously injured and Jason was treating Turnos, so he couldn't be distracted at all and couldn't take action, Owen rationally allowed himself to endure the other party's provocation. Seeing that Owen stopped talking, the young man with triangular eyes couldn't help but sneered, glanced at everyone, and his triangular eyes started to roll. I don't know what he was thinking. Owen, weren't you quite arrogant before? Why is it withering now? Oh, by the way. This thornhorn Tyrannosaurus is an extremely powerful existence among the 7th-level Emperor-level spiritual beasts. Have you been injured in the previous battle? Do you want me to give you a bottle of spiritual potion to treat it? Just for a moment. The horse-faced man had a smile on his face and said coldly. However, his eyes were carefully observing every move of Owen and everyone else. Humph, Cardross, obediently put that hand over the gold spiritual core of the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. We can ignore your previous behavior, otherwise don't blame us for being rude. We can even kill an imperial-level spiritual beast like the thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. Do you think just a few of you can take away our things? Owen's face was gloomy, and he said coldly. His face was full of pride, but he was slightly anxious in his heart. He has known this Cardross for a long time. He is a senior disciple of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower and a 7th-level senior imperial spiritual master. His strength is just as strong as his own, and the other 3 people next to him. Among them, the fat man is also a senior disciple, a 7th-level senior imperial spiritual master, while the young man with triangular eyes and another young man are both 7th-level intermediate imperial spiritual masters. These people, together with Owen in the spiritual medicine master tower, they have never dealt with each other, and there are occasional conflicts between the two sides. However, both sides know their respective strengths, so there is no major confrontation. If it is normal, even though there are many people on the other side, Owen is not afraid, but now under the circumstances, Owen felt a little anxious. Both he and Faulkner were seriously injured under the attack of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. Although with the 6th-level healing potion added by Jason, their injuries have recovered a lot, and their combat effectiveness has been restored by about half, but not yet a match for Cardros. If Jason could take action, it would be fine. But now Jason is treating Turnos and told everyone not to disturb him. It was obviously difficult to free his hand, which put Owen in a dilemma. But no matter what, Irving made up his mind that Cardros and others would never be allowed to take away the spiritual core of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. This was Jason's trophy that he fought to the death for, and no one was allowed to take it away. With Jason by his side, Owen was still a little unsure. Haha, brother, is this Owen crazy? He was injured like this, and he was still shouting that he was rude to us. Could it be that he was beaten in the previous battle? Silly? Haha, I think so. Look at the three of them. Except for Owen, who is a 7th-level senior imperial spiritual master, the other two are both 7th-level intermediate imperial spiritual masters, and they have suffered such serious injuries. To be so arrogant is to seek death. Brother, these guys are too arrogant. If they don't take out the good things they have and show respect to the brothers, they will inevitably suffer a heavy meal even though they are both disciples of the spiritual medicine master Pagoda. The young man with horned eyes glanced at everyone coldly, then he took a step forward and sneered. What I'm saying is, take out all the good things you have. If it satisfies the brothers may consider it. I'll let you suffer a little less today, otherwise, The fat young man patted his chest. The fat all over the body is trembling. He also screamed strangely. After hearing what the other party said, the expressions of Owen and others changed. These guys not only want to steal the spiritual core of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus, even the things on their bodies were not spared. But now that the other party was stronger than others, the three Owens were suddenly filled with anger, but they were even more vigilant. A stream of spiritual power circulated in their body, cope with bad situations that may arise at any time. Hey, brother, it seems that these guys still want to resist. They really don't eat the toast, but have to drink the wine as a penalty. The old bastard is tired of eating arsenic and frost. The young man with triangular eyes sneered, and with a fierce look in his eyes, he took a step forward and drew out the long knife from his waist. Damn it, if you don't show them some color, you really think we don't do it? Dare to take action, the fat young man also sneered, and the four of them immediately pushed towards Owen and the others. Owen and others felt like they were facing a formidable enemy, and the three of them leaned closely together. Oh? I wonder what color some of you want to show us. At this moment, a ridiculing voice suddenly sounded in the forest and passed into everyone's minds. Who is it? The horse-faced man reacted immediately, shouted coldly, and then looked at the place where the sound came from. The faces of the people with triangular eyes also had astonishment on their faces, and they turned the weapons in their hands aiming at that place. I saw a young man with long black hair slowly standing up among the rocks on the left side of the crowd, with a sarcastic smile on his face. Seeing where Jason stood up, the expressions of the horse-faced man and others suddenly changed several times. The black-haired young man had been beside them just now, and none of them had sensed it before. Arrived, which surprised them. Although due to the previous battle between Jason and the Horned Tyrannosaurus, this mountain forest was filled with countless broken branches and various gravels, making it extremely messy. Jason, who was treating Turnos, was located in its normal for the others to be unable to see behind a pile of rocks. But this cannot be used as an excuse for their inability to discover Jason. As a 7th level senior imperial spiritual master, the naked eye is only the most basic method of identification. What is more important is spiritual consciousness. However, even though Jason was standing in front of them alive now, they still couldn't sense Jason's presence. Even if they scanned the area with their spiritual sense, they couldn't sense it. However, they unexpectedly sensed Jason's presence in that area. Behind the rocks, there seems to be an extremely weak breath of life. This situation suddenly shocked the hearts of the people in Cardross and filled them with disbelief. 2 of the 4 of them are 7th level high-level imperial spiritual masters who can't sense their spiritual consciousness. They are at least 8th level low-level imperial spiritual masters. Could it be that this young man is actually an 8th level spiritual master? Isn't the Emperor spiritual master successful? But judging from Jason's appearance, they felt that Jason didn't look like an 8th level imperial spiritual master at all. Jason, why did you come out? How's Turnos doing? Can he be saved? Jason, these guys took away all the spiritual cores of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus. Different from the shock of Cardross and the others, when the 3 Owens saw Jason, their faces suddenly showed expressions of extreme surprise. Their expressions were full of excitement. At the same time, they were extremely nervous before. At this moment, it was like a big stone fell to the ground, and it relaxed. Even the hands tightly holding the weapon were slightly loosened. Jason's power was as powerful as that of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus before. During the battle, it has been deeply imprinted in the hearts of Owen and others. They have extremely great confidence in Jason, Owen and others, let alone the 4 guys of Cardross, even if their number is doubled, and there is no way he can be Jason's opponent. Turnos is fine. I have rescued him, but he hasn't woken up yet. He may still be in a coma for a day, and he will need to be nursed back to health for at least a month or 2, but his life was finally saved. Jason spoke calmly to Owen and the others, but then his eyes fell on Cardross and the others. His originally gentle eyes suddenly became extremely sharp. I heard that you guys want good things. ? Jason's voice was calm, without a trace of emotion. I have a lot of good things, it just depends on whether you guys have the skills to come and get them. The appearance of Jason immediately caused some confusion on the faces of Cardross and others. At this moment, long black hair, you aren't you that Jason? The young man who had been silent until now looked at Jason carefully and exclaimed in surprise. Jason? Which Jason? Monsna, do you know this guy? Kaderos frowned slightly and asked the young man. Brother, this guy's name is Jason. He is the one who had a life-and-death duel with Redis and the others not long ago, and Redis made a lot of money in the solution battle. Jason and the others had nearly 1 million points, and Jason caused a scene in the elixir tower. When he and Redis were dueling, I was also there. I will never admit my mistake, the young man screamed repeatedly, his face was full of affirmation. Faulkner was fine, but Owen and the others were completely stunned and looked at Jason with confusion. Redis had a great reputation in the Alchemist Tower, and they all knew each other, but what they said Jason and Redis solution decided to win, and Redis and the others earned nearly 1 million points. So what happened? Owen and others entered the secret trial realm a week before Jason and the others, so they didn't hear about it. Jason's face was full of surprise and astonishment, but after seeing Faulkner's calm expression, Irving and the 3 of them understood. What Monsna said should be true. Yes. Kadros was also startled at first, but soon, a smile broke out on his originally surprised face. Who do I think it is? It turns out to be you, Grandma. It really scared me before. I was also wondering when our elixir tower had such a young master. It turned out to be that Jason. He's just a high-level spiritual master, so he's just pretending to be stupid. Hey, I heard that he is also a 6th-level master of elixirs, and his attainments in elixirs are not inferior to Redis. I guess he must have a lot of good things and elixirs in him. The fat man and the young man with triangular eyes also exhaled a long breath at this moment, and their faces relaxed. The horse-faced man sneered, took a step forward and said, "Sir, I heard you said before that you have a lot of good things on you. Take them all out for me. Anyway, you can't keep them after I go out. Take them out obediently. You can eat less." What a pain. After learning Jason's identity, Cardros and the others immediately regained their arrogance, and at the same time their faces were filled with excitement. The 6th-level senior elixir master is a big fat sheep. The wealth he possesses is beyond the reach of senior disciples like them who are spiritual masters. Seeing the arrogance of Cardros and the others, Owen and others on the side were dumbfounded, and at the same time they were mourning for Cardros and the others in their hearts. Jason smiled calmly, nodded, pulled out the black heavy sword from behind, and casually threw it on the rocky ground. Insert. Boom. The rocks on the ground were shattered, revealing a deep pit. The spiritual power on the black heavy sword was flowing, emitting waves of terrifying spiritual power fluctuations. This heavy sword is the best in my body. If the 3 of you think you have the ability to take it, you can take it yourself. Jason's tone was indifferent. You brat, you're toasting me, and you're punished with a drink. The triangular-eyed young man was furious and shouted coldly. I don't know what you are so arrogant about. Although you are a 6th-level master of elixirs, normally there would be many people who want to curry favor with you. But you know, you are already finished. Please obediently hand over the elixir and all the materials on your body, maybe you can suffer less. You guy, you don't know that you are about to die. I'm afraid you have so much courage, because you guys participated in the Continental Elite competition. The members who joined the Elixir Master Tower together are very united. But you kid, you have been staying in the secret realm of trials, and I'm afraid you don't know that your friends are all lying on the hospital bed recovering from their injuries. They are still so rampant, I really don't know how to write the word death, Cardrosling shouted, with a sarcastic look on his face. That's right, you kid is really lucky to have hidden this secret trial realm, but your friends are not so lucky. I heard that there is a very powerful person named Leonardo among them, TSK. He was beaten to the point where he knelt on the ground, he was completely humiliated, haha. There is also the Melting Saint, who is a 7th-level low-level imperial spiritual master, but he was criticized for saying that he wanted to protect the dignity of Master Jason. Half of my life was lost after the beating. If it hadn't been for the staff of the Elixir Tower to stop me, I'm afraid he would have been beaten to death. The fat man and the young man with triangular eyes also sneered. What did you say? After hearing what Cardros and the others said, Jason's expression suddenly changed, and he shouted loudly. There was a fierce light in his eyes, as if he had turned into something. A fierce god looked at Cadaros and the others. Damn it, you are a little 6th-level senior spiritual master. What are you yelling at? Are you seeking death? The triangular-eyed young man was startled by Jason's roar and cursed angrily. Be careful. Just when the triangular-eyed young man was scolding, Jason's eyes flashed fiercely, and the black épée in his hand instantly moved, swinging it into a black light and slashing towards the triangular-eyed young man. How could Cadaros? Everyone's eyelids jumped, and they immediately shouted a warning, but before their words could finish, the black épée in Jason's hand had already hit the triangular-eyed young man hard. Boom! Terrifying spiritual power spurted out. The poor young man with triangular eyes did not react at all under Jason's attack. He was directly slapped away by Jason with a sword. Blood splashed in the air. The young man with triangular eyes was in the forest. He knocked down several big trees in a row before falling down. He struggled to get up, his eyes full of panic. He wanted to say something, but nothing came out. All he could say was the continuous spray of cum in his mouth. There was blood on the way out. Jason's sudden blow immediately shocked the others in Cardros. Seeking death. However, it was only a moment of daze. The 3 of Cardros all came back to their senses from the shock. There was shock and anger on their faces, and they roared in their mouths. At the same time, they suddenly rubbed their bodies. He lunged at Jason fiercely. Waves of terrifying pressure were released from these three people, and various spiritual elements formed into spiritual storms, sweeping towards Jason. Get away! Jason's eyes were like lightning. Faced with the attacks of Cardros and the others, Jason shouted angrily without any panic, and stabbed out with the black épée in his hand. Boom! The situation changed dramatically, the sky and the earth lost color. The black heavy sword in Jason's hand instantly turned into a roaring black dragon, roaring into the formation of Cardros and the others. Boom! 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 Amazing explosions continued to sound, the terrifying spiritual power spread out, and the whole world collapsed. In the horrified eyes of Owen and others who had not had time to rush forward from behind, Cardros, the three of them were all forced away by the impact of the black dragon transformed from Jason's black heavy sword. Go! Jason's tongue exploded with thunder, and the sound was so loud that it shook the blue sea and the sky, and everyone's minds were buzzing. The black épée in Jason's hand was constantly exhaling astonishing spiritual power, and a large number of 5 elements of spiritual power elements crazily poured into Jason's body. The black épée was disillusioned, and under Jason's control it turned into a black dragon and struck at Cardros and the other 3. The faces of the 3 Cardros were frightened, and they roared angrily. The spiritual power in their bodies was running wildly, and the weapons in their hands were slashed out. Boom! A huge roar resounded throughout the world, and the bright light broke through the void, illuminating the entire mountain forest. A majestic force surged out from the center of the explosion, and the earth burst into pieces. Terrifying cracks appeared one after another, and countless rocks collapsed. It was like a flash flood erupting, and substantial energy swept across all directions, destroying everything in its path. Trees and rocks were turned into powder, destroying everything. In the dazzling light, 3 figures were thrown heavily, and blood spurted out from their mouths. Only Jason Itzai stood proudly, with an aura as heavy as a mountain, shaking the whole world. The aura of a peerless master could be seen at a glance, giving people an unspeakable shock. Buzz, an inexplicable power suddenly rose from Jason, and the terrifying pressure came down overwhelmingly. In the mountain forest, Cardros struggled to stand up with a look of horror on his face, but not yet when he reacted. A heavy sword exuding a terrifying aura had quietly landed on his neck. Tell me, what happened to what you just said? Jason shouted sharply. His eyes were cold, and the terrifying murderous intent in his eyes kept surging. He was like Shura coming out of hell, making people afraid to look at him. Cardros stammered, with a look of horror on his face. Big beads of sweat were oozing from his forehead. His whole body was shaking like chaff, unable to recover from the fact that he was defeated by Jason. Tell me, what's going on? After seeing Cardros stuttering, Jason shouted again, and the black heavy sword in his hand once again released a terrifying pressure, pressing towards Cardros Ross. Plop! Under Jason's pressure, the frightened Cardros could no longer hold on. He knelt down heavily, with no trace of blood on his face, and he almost fainted. Useless thing. Jason looked coldly and kicked Cardros in the chest. The sound of bones breaking like fried soybeans suddenly came from Cardros's chest, and his whole body was far away. He was kicked out and hit a huge rock in the mountain forest. Suddenly, the rock was completely shattered under the powerful impact, and Cardros also fell to the ground, spurting out a mouthful of liquid. Blood foam. Kuei-sen's figure flashed and he appeared in front of the fat man again. The black épée pointed at the man's forehead. You tell me. His words were concise and sharp, and his eyes were like a sharp knife, piercing the fat man's heart, making him tremble all over and stay stunned for a moment. Huh? Jason frowned, and a terrifying pressure enveloped the fat man, waking him up from his daze. I say, what exactly do you want to know? I say. The fat man burst into tears and hurriedly spoke out. As a 7th-level senior Imperial spiritual master, He said he has never seen such a ferocious and evil person. What is even more terrifying is Jason's strength. He does not understand that he and Cardros are both 7th-level high-level Imperial Spiritual Masters, and Meng Sina is also a 7th-level Intermediate Imperial Spiritual Master. The three of them joined forces and only made 2 moves on the opponent's right hand and were defeated overwhelmingly. Such terrifying strength caused the fat man's psychological defense to collapse in an instant. This is a killing god. Although the rule of the Medicine Master Tower is that disciples cannot kill each other. But looking at Jason's terrifying eyes, the fat man had no doubt that if he didn't answer, the other party would not. He hesitated to send out the black weight and cut off his own head. This is a psychological punishment, but it is 100 times more uncomfortable than physical punishment. What do you mean by what you just said? What happened to Leonardo and the others? Jason said coldly, staring at the fat man in front of him. It's Paltero, the fat man said with a cry, you have offended Redis. His eldest brother Paltro ended his retreat 2 days ago. Redis wants to settle the score with you. But I didn't expect that you were not here, so you found your friends Leonardo and the others, and humiliated you and them severely. Your friends were angry, and the 2 sides had a conflict, and they were killed by Redis. Your eldest brother Paltro was all defeated, and many of the people who joined the Elixir Master Tower with you were injured, and Leonardo was beaten to the point where he knelt down. There was also a man named Rongxing, who was almost killed by Paltero on the spot. If the staff of the Elixir Tower had not stopped him, I'm afraid he would have died under Jason's gaze. The fat man suddenly became stunned. He spoke with a cry. Listening to the fat man's narration, Jason's eyes became colder and colder, and his right hand holding the black épée became tighter and tighter. Boom! After the fat man told the whole story, Jason slashed the ground with his sword, leaving a ravine more than 10 feet long. Paltero? Jason said coldly, with boundless anger in his eyes as he looked towards the trial town in the distance. That's where the exit of the trial secret realm is. Jason, Paltro is the core disciple of the Spiritual Master Tower. He has been promoted to the 8th-level low-level Emperor Spiritual Master and the 7th-level low-level Spiritual Master many years ago. Now he has been in seclusion for several years, and his strength is unknown. Come on, don't be impulsive. After seeing Jason's angry eyes, Owen was startled and said anxiously. Yes, Jason, you can't be impulsive. As Paltro, the core disciple has a noble status in the Spirit Master Tower. His strength is even more outstanding, so you should think twice before taking action. Although Faulkner and others did not know the relationship between the group of people mentioned by the fat man and Jason, they were afraid that Jason would be carried away by anger, so they also tried to persuade him to speak out. Although in the previous battle, Jason showed extremely amazing strength, and also killed the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus that had touched the threshold of the 8th level. However, the difference between the 8th level Emperor level and the 7th level Emperor level is really too big. No one can afford to risk it at all. Thoughts. What's more important is that Paltero is not an ordinary 8th level low-level Imperial Spiritual Master. As a core disciple of the Spirit Master Pagoda, Paltero's skills are definitely not ordinary, even if he is a Spirit Yao. In theory, the strength of a spiritual master is lower than that of a pure spiritual master, but it cannot be underestimated. Facing the ordinary 8th level low-level Emperor Spiritual Masters from the outside world, he can definitely completely sweep them away. You don't need to say anything. Jason's eyes were firm and he said indifferently, I need to return to Lingyao City immediately. Do you want to continue the trial or go back? If it's a trial, then say goodbye. If you go back, I will take you back to Trial Town. Jason looked at Owen and others and spoke coldly. Faced with the concern of Owen and others, he naturally knew that the other party was doing it for his own good, but he could never turn a blind eye and watch his disciples and friends being bullied outside. Regardless of his past life or this life, Jason's character is extremely gentle and he never takes the initiative to cause trouble. But this does not mean that others can bully him or his friends. After hearing Jason's tough words, he knew Owen and others, who could not change Jason's mind, could only sigh in their hearts and said, "We are also going back. Jason, I hope you can wait a moment. Let's pack up." Jason didn't say anything, and sat down cross-legged directly. The spiritual Goddard in his body started to work quickly. At the same time, he absorbed the 5 elements of spiritual power in the secret trial realm that were several times richer than the outside world. The previous battle with the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus had almost exhausted the spiritual energy in Jason's body. Next, he had to treat Turnos. There was no rest at all. Jason needed to take advantage of the situation while he was still there. During this time in the secret trial realm, he recovered the spiritual power in his body as quickly as possible. He couldn't waste even a moment of time. When Jason absorbed the spiritual power elements in the air, Owen and Faulkner were facing each other. He glanced at it and then came to the 4 seriously injured Cardros with fierce faces. A frightening light flowed out of his eyes, and he said with a ferocious smile, "Hurry up, take all the good things on you. Take it out. We are in a hurry. If we delay, you will have to suffer." The previous blackmail by Cardros and others made Owen and others feel angry. Now that they have the opportunity, naturally they have to repair each other. Seeing the ferocious expressions of Owen and Faulkner, the hearts of the people in Cardros could not help but beat wildly. They were seriously injured, and their bodies in great pain shook involuntarily. They who had wanted to do evil before, at this moment, he finally suffered his own consequences. After a moment, a large number of 5th level and 6th level spiritual yaos, as well as some spiritual cores of various levels, appeared in front of Jason. "Jason, these are all collected from Cardros and the others. As well as the spiritual core of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus, as well as some useful materials on the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus, please put them away." Owen said respectfully, "Except for the spiritual core of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus and the materials on its body, the rest is exactly what Cardros and the others have gained in the secret trial realm in the past 10 days. It's worth 200,000 to 300,000 points. Owen and the others didn't keep any of them, they all gave them to Jason. In the hearts of Owen and others, if it weren't for Jason this time, they would have died long ago under the attack of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus, and Jason still, each of them was given a bottle of 6th level healing elixir worth tens of thousands of points. Those elixirs alone were already an extremely huge number. Looking at the pile of materials on the ground, Jason put the spiritual core of the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus into his own space ring. At the same time, he divided the remaining materials on the ground into 2 and collected the spiritual part. "You can take the rest and divide it among yourself. Faulkner will get an extra 5,000 points, Jason said indifferently. The task he gave Faulkner was 10,000 points, and he was still short of 5,000 points. So he gave it to the other party from this pile of materials. "Jason, we can't have this. You saved us twice. If it weren't for you, we would probably be in trouble this time. So many things are only worth a total of 300,000 points. You'd better take them all. What's more, you also gave each of us a bottle of 6th level healing elixir. This we really can't have it." Owen and Faulkner were both anxious, and even Betty was unwilling to accept it. "Oh? Do you want to be clear about it?" Jason looked at Owen calmly and said, "If you want to settle the matter, the bottle of healing elixir I gave you is worth 35,000 points. You must return it to me now." "Ah?" Irving and the others were stunned for a moment. "We are a divination team, and the distribution of the harvest has been discussed before departure. This is what you deserve." Before Owen and the others could react, Jason spoke again, and immediately, he flew into the sky. "Let's go quickly. If you don't leave, you will risk your own risk and walk out of this secret trial realm." For Jason, although Owen and the others didn't contribute much, they are a team after all, and the distribution has been decided long ago. Besides, low-level spiritual cores worth hundreds of thousands of points are really important to Jason. "It's nothing, but if the materials he needs appear, Jason will come over even if Owen and the others don't take the initiative to give them to Jason. After hearing what Jason said, Owen and others had no choice but to collect the materials on the ground. Then they hugged Turnos, who was still unconscious, and flew into the sky, following behind Jason, flying towards the location of Trial Town. In the mountain forest, looking at the retreating figures of Jason and others, Cadros gritted his teeth and cursed loudly. However, after feeling the situation they were in at the moment, there were helpless, wry smiles on their faces again. This time, the four of them finally earned 50,000 points each, wasted an opportunity, and entered the secret realm of the trial, just to prepare for a big fight and earn a lot of money. In the last chapter, Cadros and the others were overjoyed when they saw Owen and others who were seriously injured in the battle with the Thornhorn Tyrannosaurus, thinking that things had turned around. However, the current outcome made them sadder than death. Not only did they all the spiritual medicine materials and spiritual cores obtained from Tianzhong were gone, and he was seriously injured. In the remaining 10 days in the secret trial realm, I am afraid that he can only spend time healing, let alone hunting, killing spirit beasts and searching for spirit Yao materials. In such a dangerous environment of the secret trial realm, their first priority is no longer how to find precious spirit Yaos, but how to survive in this dangerous place. At the center of the trial secret realm, the trial town is still noisy and full of vitality. From time to time, teams of members leave the trial town and enter the vast mountains and forests, searching for precious spirit Yaos and hunting spirits. Beast. Several human images appeared from the sky like meteors and landed in front of the trial town. It was Jason and his party. Jianran has arrived at the trial town. You can make your own arrangements for what to do next. After briefly talking to Owen and the others, Jason left the team and headed towards the teleportation registration office, leaving the trial secret realm. In the Spirit Yao Master Tower, each member has 1 month of trial time each time they enter the trial realm. Jason and Faulkner have only been in the trial realm for about 20 days, and there are still nearly 10 days left. Oh my god. Jason was originally going to hunt some spiritual beasts and then go to the mysterious valley in the mountain to have a look. However, now, Jason has no mood or time. Look, isn't that black young man the same Jason? What, is he Jason? How pitiful his companions were. Oh, I offended Paltero. It seems that their life will be difficult in the future. It looks like Jason is leaving the secret realm of trials. If Paltrow knows that he is back, there will be a good show. It's a pity that we have just entered this secret trial realm. The opportunity to test the secret realm is rare. We can't go out and have a look. It's really a pity. In the trial town, a member who had seen the duel between Jason and Redis immediately recognized the hurried-looking Jason and couldn't help but exclaimed, while other members on the side, after understanding Jason after learning about Sen's identity, they couldn't help but whisper, and at the same time looked at Jason with strange eyes. These members had just been sent to the secret trial realm from Lingyao City, so they naturally knew that Leonardo and the others were there. News from outside. Facing the buzz around him, Jason remained expressionless. After registering with the staff of the trial spiritual Yao Master Tower, he was then arranged to enter the teleportation array. The teleportation array was activated, and after a burst of white light, Jason found that he had appeared on the 5th floor of the spiritual Yao Master Tower. Knowing his situation, Jason did not hesitate and went directly to the 1st floor hall of the spiritual Master Tower, then rushed out of the trading hall and rushed towards the villa of Rongxing like lightning. As Jason ran wildly, the pavilion allocated by the Melting Saint appeared clearly. At the same time, a noisy guest also appeared in Jason's ears. Jason's brows furrowed quietly.